The year is 1980. A young comic plug has a quarter in his hand, and that one quarter set him in a direction he didn't even know he was going on. What am I talking about? Yeah, I'm quite sure you guys figured it out. It was stand-up video games, and the first quarter that I ever had that went into a video game was Space Invaders. I played that. I was horrible at it. I did not understand it. No one was in front of me. I couldn't see it. Everywhere I went that had a Space Invaders, if I went with my older sisters and we went to the pool hall, they had a Space Invaders. If I went with my dad to the bowling alley, they had a Space Invaders. I played that till I knew I could get at least past the second round, which I did. I never got past the third round. It was fun. It was addictive. That was the first taste I had at addiction. And outside of soda pop and candy and stuff like that, which sugar they say is addictive and probably causes cancer and it's going to stunt my growth, all that blah, 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 blah. That's mindless puppet talk. Look, man, did I know what that quarter was going to turn into? That game right there turned into me playing games like Pac-Man, Asteroids, Defender. Now, Asteroids I was pretty good at. Defender, I couldn't get the multiple button things and switching and all the people. Like, I never saved them. And then Stargate came out and things of that nature. But some of my favorite games were Centipede, Asteroids. I was so good at Centipede, so good at Asteroids. But I was better at Tempest. Tempest, I could put a quarter in that machine at Tempest, and I could go at least a half hour, board after board after board, on such an easy concept game, had the little panel wheel on it that all you had to do was just shoot with the panel wheel. And then at this time, I lived in a city called St. Clair Shores in Michigan, and we stayed above the Shores Madrid movie theater. Now, the Tempest machine was across the street at Travis's Burgers, which is like a little greasy spoon. And I would go over there all the time and spend a quarter that I had on that. And I would get a half hour worth of play. It was worth it to me. But something really big happened. Right next to the Shores Madrid, a place called Sweets opened up. Yeah, they had candy. They had nickel candy back when nickel candy costed a nickel. And I would go there and get my Swedish fish, and then I would turn to the side, and what did they have? They had Super Mario Brothers. They had Donkey Kong Jr. They had Miss Pac-Man, and they had the one game that totally did it for me. That game was Dig Dug. And believe me when I say, I spent hours on that game. I got so good at that game that I was in a local tournament, a citywide, a statewide, and a regional. And then I placed 7th in the country in Dig Dug. I love that game. I ran into it again, like an old foe, at an arcade downtown Detroit about 6 months ago. And it took just one quarter. And I was on that game to the point that I said, you know what, I'm done. Like, I was on it so long that I just walked away and gave it to someone else. Hey, you want to take over this game? Which they immediately continued to die once after another. Because the board, I don't know, I think it was on like 68, 67, something like that. It was crazy talk. But my love for video games right there started with that one quarter and that Space Invaders. No, we weren't wealthy at all. We didn't have an Atari 2600 or ColecoVision and Television, Odyssey or Odyssey 2000. We didn't have a Macintosh. I had a Commodore VIC-20, and all it did was teach me how to just program basic stuff, and I can make a ball bounce around, and that's all it was. That's all I could do. It wasn't until I got a little bit older and I got into, never did Nintendo. I was never a Nintendo guy. I got into Sega Genesis, and it was all about sports with me and my friends. There we were in my basement apartment playing Joe Montana's football And if it wasn't that, we would go to my buddy's house and we'd play Tecmo Bowl on his Nintendo. Now look, Sega Genesis was way better than the Nintendo when it comes to the graphics and game speed and everything like that. Little did I know that NBA Jam came out, and boy, I played the heck out of that. And then came Madden, which blew everyone's mind. And my friends, all they did was play like sports games, but I was different. Until I met my friend Al, and then all of a sudden we started playing this weird game on this system called PlayStation, which I already had. I used to play Battle Arena Toshinden and ESPN X games on that. Loved it to death. Loved it to death. And we used to play this game called Tekken. And we would play that for hours. We'd be 12, 24 pack in. We'd even drink Zimas, because that's how old we are. And if you don't know what Zima is, you missed out. Clear malt liquor, sweet taste, kind of like a wine cooler. Kind of like Bartles and James wine cooler, just clear. Tropical tasting. Horrible for your digestive system. Let me tell you that right now. But I tell you what, Tekken made me fall in love with fighting games to the point that now I got back into Mortal Kombat and I got into Dead or Alive and things of that nature. Street Fighter, Capcom versus Marvel, all those types of games. Loved them. Man, it was so hard to play that game at a certain point because you could link the combos and you have to get good at it. But I lucked up and I got a job at a place called Funcoland. Now I just left a place called Rally's. I was a dual store manager and I was a training manager there, and I was totally burnt out. I just had my daughter and my wife wasn't working, and I was really down on myself. I was still young. So I went and took this job at Funcoland as a game advisor, making what I make, $7.25 an hour, no, $4.25 an hour plus commission. We got paid commission on selling subscriptions to the Game Informer magazine and cleaners for all the systems. So we got paid $2 for a subscription, $2.50 for a cleaner. So if I had to make money, I had to sell commissions. Well, the district manager came in and met with me, and within a week, he wanted to put me in management training. I wanted to step back from that because I was a little burnt out. But my love for video games kept me going. And Funcoland was all about buying games from people and giving them store credit so that they could buy more games. And occasionally we got some new titles in too. Let's fast forward a little bit. About a year. The Comic Plug became a group store manager. I had 4 stores under his belt, plus ran one. And that one that I ran was number 1 in sales in the company. That was in Dearborn, Michigan, in the Fairlane Meadow Shopping Plaza. That was the first store to ever have a $20,000 day. And that was on Christmas Eve, with shortened hours. This is all video games. At this point, now your boy's making good 5 figures plus commission still. My family's growing. My 2 kids are getting bigger. My wife is happy. She's now working again because the kids are older. Then I become a district manager. And that Funcoland turns into a company that a lot of you might know. It's called GameStop. It was bought by Babbage's. And Babbage's is owned by Barnes & Noble. And they did an IPO and turned it into GameStop. So here I am with this company, this juggernaut company. With Funcoland, I started with them. They had 106 locations. And by the time I left, we had over 2,700 locations worldwide. Now, I was the guy that everyone came to for all the tips, codes, and cheats, and how to get through. Like when Tomb Raider first came out or Resident Evil came out, you come see your boy. I have a little leaflet and a little binder with all these cheat codes in it. And I was able to give people assistance and help them. Hence, it infused my love for video games. And the funny thing is, as I got older, I just got better at it. I still love video games, but my video games have changed. I'm all Call of Duty, all zombies. I'm Final Fantasy. I love role-playing. Let me tell you, I got so good at video games because of that 1 quarter in Space Invaders that I had to get my PlayStation modified to play Japanese games so I wouldn't understand them, so that it made it a challenge. So I would play role-playing games like Parasite Eve and Final Fantasy VII in Japanese. I don't speak Mandarin. I don't read Mandarin. But it made it better for me. So if you ever think that I'm just comic books or I'm just movies, I'm not. I am so much more. All right, guys, in the comments, do me a favor. Tell me what your favorite video game was, or what video game got you started, if at all. And if you're still addicted to it. All right, everyone, you have a great day. It's the Comic Plug, and I'll see you later. Peace.